Because his 4 children didn't want to come home for a family reunion, an old man had a sudden idea. He decided to travel across the country to see each of his children and find out if they were truly happy. Every time he found one, he asked the same simple question.
You happy?
What do you mean?
You happy?
Yeah, of course I am.
Hearing that his daughter was doing well, a quiet joy lit up the wrinkles at the corner of his eyes. So when he visited his eldest son, he hoped for the same answer. And though his son said he was happy, the old man could see something in his eyes. That slight hesitation gave it away. That's when Frank realized something. They were lying. None of them were truly happy. He couldn't understand. Why would his own children lie to him? To find out the truth, Frank asked all 4 of them to come home for Thanksgiving. But the day before the holiday, his eldest daughter called. She said she was swamped with work and wouldn't be able to make it. Frank felt disappointed, but still held on to a little hope. After all, he had 3 other kids. Then he listened to the rest of his voicemails. One by one, they all said they couldn't come. Too busy with work. As a father, Frank felt a mix of emotions. But what could he say? Blame them? Ever since his wife passed away 8 months ago, none of them had returned home. When she was alive, she was the bridge between Frank and the kids. They told her everything. But now, things were different. They barely called him. That quiet distance had pierced straight into his heart. And all he really wanted was to know if they were happy. After sitting alone for a while, he made a bold decision. He would travel across the country to visit his 4 beloved children, one by one, and to make it a surprise. He wouldn't tell any of them he was coming. He packed his bags, brought all his medication, and began the journey. But he didn't know how far he could go. Before retiring, Frank had worked with protective coatings on power cables. Years of exposure had damaged his lungs. His health was fragile, and he needed medication on time. Flying was too risky, so he took the train. To everyone he met on the way, Frank proudly introduced his kids. His eldest son was a conductor, his youngest son, a painter, his youngest daughter, a professional dancer, his eldest daughter, a corporate executive. He spoke of them with pure pride. After a long day of travel, he arrived at his son David's apartment. He rang the doorbell again and again. No one answered. He waited on the front steps, hoping David was just working late. But hours passed. Still no sign. Disappointed, Frank turned to leave. But as he walked past a nearby art gallery, something caught his eye. A painting familiar brushwork. He looked down at the label. It was David's name. In that moment, Frank remembered how David used to say he wanted to be a house painter. But Frank had told him, become a real artist. Be someone important. Now, it seemed David had done just that. But Frank wondered, was it David's dream or his? The next morning, a neighbor helped Frank get into the apartment building. He knocked on David's door for a long time. No response. Trying to stay positive, he told himself David must be out of town. Then he bent down and carefully slid a letter under the door. I wanted to surprise you, but I guess you weren't home. I'll call you soon. Love, Dad. The rough start left Frank feeling low, but he had to stay hopeful, because next, he was going to see his eldest daughter. On the way, he passed all kinds of travelers, but it was like he lived in his own quiet world now. He no longer talked to anyone about his kids. After a few days of travel, he found his daughter Amy in the backyard of a large, beautiful house. She was on the phone. For a second, Frank saw the little girl who used to